Be cooking now on YouTube as well. Sure enough, we are. Okay. Hey, folks, if you're just joining us, welcome in here to the desk. If you've been here for a minute, thanks for sticking around. Yeah, I got a haircut yesterday. It doesn't look too good, but it's all right. We live and we learn. We are taking a look at some of our top stories. If you just missed, Peter Zampa had just joined us here from Miami outside of the courthouse where Donald Trump was arraigned yesterday. That's actually what we're starting with. So former President Trump speaking out after he made history in Miami, but not in the way he would want. Arraigned on 37 criminal counts, including the willful retention of national defense secrets, making false statements, obstruction or conspiracy to obstruct justice. He pled not guilty to all charges. Michael George reports from Bedminster, New Jersey, where Donald Trump is now fighting back.
Former President Donald Trump addressed supporters at his New Jersey golf club hours after he pleaded not guilty in Florida to all 37 federal charges against him.
Today we witness the most evil and heinous abuse of power in the history of our country.
In his remarks, Trump railed against the prosecution.
The Espionage Act has been used to go after traitors and spies. It has nothing to do with a former president legally keeping his own documents.
Law enforcement was out in force to keep protesters and supporters under control outside the courthouse in downtown Miami, where Trump became the first former president to face federal charges. Once inside the courthouse, the former president, along with aide Walt Nauta, who was also charged in the case, surrendered to authorities, got swabbed for DNA, and was fingerprinted. There was no mugshot taken, and he was allowed to hold on to his passport. Trump is accused of hoarding classified documents after he left the White House, and prosecutors say Trump refused the government's demands to return them. According to the indictment, the highly sensitive materials included information about the U.S. nuclear program and the military activities of adversaries.
The government really has to develop a strategy to use the classified documents without making them public.
The former president is pressing ahead with his campaign at events like this fundraiser in New Jersey, while his legal team works on his defense.
Remember, President Trump was the president. He could declassify documents under the Presidential Records Act.
31 of the counts against the former president are for alleged violations of the Espionage Act.
Special counsel Jack Smith, who brought the charges, says he's seeking a speedy trial. And if you just heard my interview with Peter just now, that conversation, he was saying the Trump team may try to delay this out until 2025 in hopes that maybe a Republican is in the White House and then, things kind of lean in Trump's favor a little bit more. But he said that is kind of unlikely to delay it out that much, so we'll just have to wait and see. Well, it continues to happen, and it's probably going to keep happening, but the Olive Road Bridge is back in talks once again. It's become a dangerous magnet for trucks over the years. The clearance is 10 feet 5 inches. We've lost count of how many times it's been hit, but yesterday, Augusta commissioners may have come up with another way to warn drivers. As Nick Velan tells us, this plan involves some new technology.
Blinking signs leading up to the Olive Road Bridge, trying to warn drivers that this bridge is shorter than others. But even with these blinking lights and signs, the bridge still gets hit, and now more possible solutions are being brought to the table. On a typical day, the sound of travel through the bridge is a constant, until it's not.
Oh man, it shakes the whole house, so it feels like an earthquake. But since I've been living here so long, I know what it is, and I can see it from my backyard.
It isn't the sound of a train coming through. Instead, a truck slamming into the Olive Road Bridge, sending shockwaves into Wyatt Jones's house.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. Like I said, now I know what it is, but at first, the first time it happened, I literally thought I was experiencing an earthquake.
Even though the city says that there are more than 30 signs to prevent it from happening, it still does.
I mean, you have all the blinking stop signs and the things on the road and the things that tell you how high you can be to go under there.
Now the commission is looking for a solution.
I don't think that there's much we can do.
Jordan Johnson is the commissioner of the district where the train overpass is, and he says that talks need to happen with CSX for a better solution.
CSX has to take the front row seat here. They have to drive the train, no pun intended, to get this resolution. The city can't do it all.
And what about hanging something over the road, warning drivers? Well, Earlier this month and today, traffic engineering says that the city would be liable for any damage it might cause.
I'm very much against hanging something in the road, because as soon as I do that, that's too low. It becomes Augusta's responsibility, and if somebody strikes that pipe or whatever it is that we hang in the road, it becomes our liability and our problem.
The commission did move forward with one idea: to add a warning to GPS systems when drivers approach the Olive Road Bridge.
I don't think any piece of legislation or any device that we put up will solve this issue. Folks have to just use common sense. Don't hit the bridge. If you can't fit under it, don't go under it.
And adding a warning onto GPS systems will have continued discussion at next week's full commission meeting. And we did reach out to CSX to see if they wanted to comment on any of this following today's meeting, but we still have yet to receive any word from them. But we'll continue to update you when we do. In Augusta, Nick Veland on your side.
Okay, thanks for that, Nick. And they also talked about the idea of hanging something over the road, like you said there. And while they didn't rule that out, they did not send it to commission for a full vote. Okay, now to some news we broke yesterday for you here on News 12 Now. One man is dead, another woman injured after two separate shootings in the same North Augusta neighborhood yesterday. The coroner confirms the 24-year-old killed is Carnell Nealis III. That shooting happened in a neighborhood just half a mile from North Augusta Middle School. Will Rio was on scene most of the day and tells us more about the two shootings.
Two different shootings happening in the same neighborhood at around 4:40 a.m. A 52-year-old woman was shot in the 600 block of Hutchinson Street and taken to the hospital, according to the Aiken County Sheriff's Office. Now, later that morning, shots rang out right around the corner where 24-year-old Carnell Nealis the third was gunned down. Now, yellow tape lined neighbors' yards on Weston Street this morning and into this afternoon as investigators continue their search for answers. While that was happening, the entire road was blocked off and a crowd of neighbors gathered slowly as they watched deputies process the scene there. The call came in at around 10:04 this morning for shots fired. When deputies got to the home, they found the victim in the doorway with the door still open. Now, the only piece of information released so far about who may have done this is a white or gray colored hatchback was seen leaving the area in a hurry. Several neighbors we talked to say that they heard the gunshots early this morning and saw a white colored vehicle leaving the neighborhood. Now, right now, the sheriff's office is focusing on getting closure for a grieving family.
Our job is to investigate the facts. Right now we have somebody that is deceased, and obviously our community and the family has been affected. We encourage anybody in this community or anybody that's outside this community that has some information, just come forward with it.
The sheriff's office has not told us if these two shootings are connected in any way. They say it's too early to say if this is gang related, but we did see members of their gang unit at the home this morning investigating.
Okay, thanks for that, Will. And again, we did break that here on News 12 Now. So just another reason to make sure you have that WRDW app downloaded, subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that will keep you up to date with everything that's going on within our community. We do a lot of breaking news up there, so when the newscast isn't on, we are still live. Let's see. Yesterday, or I guess this morning, the Richmond County Sheriff's Office is searching for a man in connection to a home invasion and an aggravated assault. It happened on Sunday on Fayetteville Drive. Investigators say Khalil Hudson showed up at his ex-girlfriend's apartment, started attacking her current boyfriend. The victim told deputies he was cut with a retractable knife. Hudson's about 5'6", known to hang out at West Parkway and Demerit Street. Deputies say, excuse me. Deputies say he is armed and dangerous. And if you see him, you are asked to call the sheriff's office. The father of Aubrey Anthony is suing the city of Augusta and the housing authority. Aubrey was killed last year in a drive-by shooting at the Dogwood Terrace Apartments. The lawsuit claims there was not enough security in place when the recurring crime theme there. It goes on to say the complex failed to provide controlled access, active security, proper lighting, and more that could have reduced crime in that area. The lawsuit says the defendants failed to take any steps to keep its tenants safe, ultimately leading to Aubrey's death. Anthony is suing for the loss of his daughter's life, medical expenses, pain and suffering, funeral, and burial costs. We're learning new details about Augusta's recovery efforts after the cyber attack. Most of the network is back online, except for 3 major systems: Geographic Information Systems, the Enterprise Asset Management System that depends on GIS, and the Solid Waste Operations System. Augusta Mayor Garnett Johnson talked about the restoration process yesterday.
So people that are going out to our landfills, as I mentioned, that is a remote location. We're still working through the process there. Things are going well. We don't see any problem with coming back online. But as you know, just getting all of our servers and everything back online just takes time. And we're doing it in a very diligent way to make sure that we don't incur any additional unauthorized access to our system. And none has occurred again since our reboot. So that is the good news.
Meanwhile, our Taylor Martin went around the city to check out what's working and what's not.
Nearly 4 weeks down, and now most services are finally getting back up. Customers are saying,
"Oh yeah."
After living in Augusta for 24 years, Michael Dobbs was used to paying his utility bill one way. But for a few weeks, he and other customers had to step out of the norm.
The lady told me that the systems was down and that I could pay the bill at the kiosk.
But today, Animal Services, Probate Court, and the Tax Commissioner's Office say they're able to serve the community.
Actually, as of yesterday, we were fully operational. We had not completed all of our tests, but today everything is complete. So we're back to your normal Tax Commissioner's Office.
Mayor Johnson says it's all possible thanks to a global system reset and Wi-Fi restoration. And while those steps were successful, the work is far from over.
We're starting to restore our departments back to functionality. Are we 100% there? Not necessarily. We still have some off-site departments that are still experiencing some issues.
Even though not all departments are fully restored, people in Augusta like Michael are just happy to continue paying their bills the way they please.
I really like to pay my bills in person.
In Augusta, Taylor Martin, on your side.
Mayor Johnson would not comment on any questions about the city's insurance policy and how that plays a role in this situation. He did confirm there is an insurance policy in place, but did not go into detail about it. There's a new push to solve a Richmond County cold case from 2010. On Thanksgiving Day, Nancy Cushman and Angela Brooks were found dead near the Twig Street and Laney Walker Boulevard. Somebody was walking in the area around 2 o'clock that morning and found the 2 victims near the train tracks. Richmond County deputies found a car associated with the pair, but the case went cold. The sheriff's office is asking anybody with information to come forward. Meanwhile, Governor Kemp is investing $5 million to fund a new cold case unit within the GBI. A new Georgia law allows families of homicide victims to ask law enforcement to look back into unsolved cases. Hallie Turner reports this bill could offer hope to families of more than 170 victims in Richmond County alone.
It's about to be 23 years and there's still nothing.
23 years of questions, sleepless nights, and no closure as to who took her brother's life.
Who are you to take a life when you didn't give a life? That was my only brother, my mom's only son, my father's only son, his 2 daughters. They was robbed of them getting to know him.
Without a motive or a suspect.
So it went cold. At the time, Richard Roundtree, he was the investigator on the case at the time. He was working exceptionally hard in regards to finding the murderers.
According to documents from the sheriff's office, this is the case for 171 other families in Richmond County.
Many questions posed in my brain. Was the case worked as it should? Was something else that can be done? What can we do now, today?
The sheriff's office does have a cold case unit, but this year, Governor Kemp signed into law the Coleman-Baker Act, a bill designed to help families of murder victims like the Lewis family get closure.
I'm to the point, even if they have to go and dig up the remains, if any evidence that they can actually get from the grave, exhaust all means necessary, because I want to just kind of put this at ease.
The bill requires law enforcement agencies to provide exact numbers of unsolved homicide cases. Families of homicide victims can request law enforcement to review cold cases and apply new technology and resources to the case.
There's hope. We just need the right people in place to accommodate the diagnostics and the logistics of that bill and, of course, the new technology.
She promised her parents when they died she would get justice.
I told my father, I said, mark my word, I want to find Skeeta's killer.
Now, all of this goes into effect July 1st, so we plan on sitting down with the GBI to hear more about the team they're bringing together for the cold case unit and what type of technology they're also going to be bringing in. We're learning new details about a post office that a postal services fire at the Clearwater Post Office after part of that building got burned yesterday morning. Until further notice, services at this building are going to be relocated. Firefighters were called to the scene just after 4 yesterday morning. The small blaze was contained to one room, but there is smoke and water damage in other parts of that building. The ATF is investigating. So those services are being diverted to the Bath Post Office on Augusta Road now. If you need to pick up mail, they'll be open during normal business hours. And if you have a P.O. box, you will need your photo ID to pick up that mail. So remember to bring that if you got to go pick that up. And some things you have to send via snail mail still these days, but banks, postal offices are asking people not to mail checks if they have other options because of a sharp increase in check fraud. There were more than 680,000 cases of this last year. That's way up from 350,000 in 2021. The post office says complaints of mail theft are up too. Writing checks is on the decline, but people do still send them through the mail. So if you don't have to mail that check, they say find other ways to pay. Give students hands-on experience in the workforce before they ever get out of school. That's the goal of the Students to Work internship program. It's for rising high school juniors and seniors in Richmond County through the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce hopes this program will be beneficial and both students and businesses. They pair students with local businesses each year to work as paid interns. They learn hands-on skills that you're not going to get in a classroom. Business owner Lane Keene says taking on an intern is a way for his business to give back to the community.
What we've been doing is teaching them sign making, which involves a lot of hands-on work. So they're learning how to use tools in the shop environment and how to work safely.
I've never done anything like this in manufacturing, so I've learned literally something every day.
The program hopes to support the Richmond County School System's vision to create a competitive school system where all students graduate and are college or career ready. Okay, big morning over on the lake. Here's a look at what you can expect to see this morning over on the Savannah River. The Army Corps of Engineers tested the spillway gates at Lake Russell Dam on Monday. They opened all 10 spillway gates 2 feet there. The Corps says there was minimal effect on the lake levels, but this morning they are testing the spillway gates at the Thurman Lake Dam. That's going to be at 9 o'clock. We will be streaming that up on our YouTube channel. They're going to open all 23 spillway gates a couple feet, and this test will take 2 hours. Artificial intelligence is blurring the lines of what is true and what is fake. While many companies have started to use it to add to their productivity, we're hearing ways of the technology being weaponized. Our State House reporter Abby Casoras shares what can be done to protect your family.
Emory business professor Rajiv Garg teaches a class on AI speech technology.
You can change on what kind of voice you want.
This is Atlanta News, first on AI in the future.
In just a few seconds, voice cloning technology can mimic the voice of a loved one.
As the processor starts evolving, it's in the hand of everyone.
The software is available for anyone to use, including the bad guys.
It still shakes me. It's still very present and very real. That's a fear that no mother ever wants to experience.
Jennifer DeStefano received a phone call. On the other end, she heard the cries of her daughter asking for help, then a man demanding she pay a ransom.
The voice, it was her. It was 100% her.
She hung up when she heard from her daughter, who was clearly safe. Her 15-year-old daughter's voice was faked.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give before the subcommittee is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
DeStefano doesn't want another mother to feel her pain, testifying before Congress.
No longer can we trust seeing is believing, or I heard it with my own ears, or even the sound of your own child's voice.
Georgia Senator John Ossoff is working across the aisle to study implications that AI could have on basic human rights. Garg says all these concerns prove the need for policy.
AI can learn to evolve. This is what people are more afraid of, on how do we make sure AI doesn't do it. And this is where we need to build policies.
Over the next several weeks, Congress will be hearing witness testimony on what types of policies could be put in place to safeguard families. In the meanwhile, Garg says to take your social media profiles and turn them to private. A public page could make you a target for an attack. In Norcross, I'm Abby Casoras.
All right, thanks for that update there, Abby. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp breaking his silence on will he or won't he throw his hat into the ring for nomination for the 2024 presidential race. He says he does not have any plans to do so, but he says that in politics, doors are always opening and closing, and that he's learned over the years it's better just to focus on the task at hand. While he says he does have a number of friends running for the GOP nomination, has not said whether he plans to endorse any of them. The ACLU of Georgia is demanding answers from state officials in response to arrests made during a protest. 3 activists who protested against the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center are facing charges of money laundering and charity fraud. The ACLU says those accusations are false and retaliation. ACLU director says these 3 activists and others who were arrested should be allowed to express themselves.
It's part of our constitutional system, part of how people are allowed to express their political views and express their opposition or support for different political matters. And it's deeply concerning that the state of Georgia would use something like, misrepresent and accuse people of terrorism.
Attorney General of Georgia and the GBI director say they have no comment because this is an ongoing investigation. The woman behind the wheel of this car that flew up the back of a tow truck in this viral video says the experience has been traumatic. Tanisha Bruton was released from the hospital Friday after 2 weeks, most of it being spent in the ICU. Bruton says she feels like all the blame is on her when she says both sides are in the wrong.
Nobody expected me to make it, not even my family. They didn't expect me to make it at all. The truck was actually in the road, in the fast lane at that. Once I saw the report, they kind of put everything on me, but blaming it all on me is just outrageous because why are you in the road and the accident is on the other side? Whether it's a move over law or not, there wasn't any cones, any hazard lights, nothing at all.
State Highway Patrol incident report says the tow truck did have its emergency lights on at the time of the crash. Bruton says she had several surgeries for internal injuries and she doesn't remember much from that day. So, interesting for her to say that it was everybody's fault then. She doesn't remember a whole lot. Okay, a delicious summer staple taking a bit of a hit now. Those famous Georgia peaches are in short supply. Blaine Alexander, News 12 alum Blaine Alexander, shows us the toll it's taking on growers.
At Georgia's Southern Bell Farm, it's the start of peach picking season. But a favorite tradition could be in jeopardy.
Typically, we see peaches just almost falling off at this point.
I mean, just hanging, the trees are weighted down.
Fifth-generation farmer Jake Carter says this year's harvest is one of the worst he's ever seen. The cause? An unseasonably warm winter. Last February was one of the warmest ever recorded in Georgia, triggering some of the state's peach trees to bloom early. But then a cold spell hit, killing the crop and essentially ending the season before it really even started. Jake even resorted to hovering 2 helicopters over the trees, hoping to push the warm air down. Still, he says he lost nearly 50% of his crop this year.
What does this usually look like?
I mean, you're usually looking at, 200-300 peaches on it.
In Middle Georgia, the toll is even worse. Some farmers lost everything. According to at least one estimate, this year, more than 90% of the peach state's peach crop is gone. And some experts say this could be a new reality for farmers.
We expect that as things get warmer, it's going to be harder to find the perfect growing conditions for peaches.
Despite its nickname, Georgia is actually the country's 3rd largest peach producer, right behind South Carolina, which is suffering the same problem. The top producer, California, has also seen declining output. Experts say this trend could eventually mean higher prices at the grocery store. Back at Southern Bell, where strawberries are also ripe for the picking, Jake says the key to staying afloat is variety.
Certainly a ripe peach.
And a little luck.
At the end of the day, it's up to the good Lord and Mother Nature to whatever happens next.
Let's keep it in the Peach State here. 30 years of music and one Atlanta band is still going strong. Their historic beginnings continue to inspire almost everyone who hears them play. Sawyer Bussey introduces us to the Atlanta Freedom Band.
One instrument can create a melody. A band
Ready?
can be a force. You are listening to Atlanta Freedom Band's concert band. Woven into the music is a story that started back in 1993 with a man named Buzz Card Jr. He went to the Atlanta Pride Parade and was disappointed to find there wasn't a marching band. He started one in his living room. Their first performance was in 1994.
With a group like ours, pride is probably the foremost emotion that I feel.
The band has proudly existed since, playing concerts and parades.
Because when I was coming up, it wasn't available, or I didn't know about it, and it wasn't okay to be out.
The group is made up of people within the LGBTQ community and allies.
We provide a kind of visibility. They see a group like us, proud musicians, providing music and joy and love to the community.
Atlanta Freedom Bands has the Atlanta Freedom Concert Band, the Atlanta Freedom Marching Band, and Color Guard, and the Metronomes Stage Band.
Even though our rights have expanded and things have improved, there are still situations where we're not equal.
They're preparing now for the 30th anniversary concert, and the details matter. Music speaks, and this music coming from this band doesn't just sound beautiful. This is a display of the power of togetherness.
So if you're in Atlanta this weekend, you might be able to catch the band's 30th anniversary concert called Out of This World. It'll be performed on the 17th at a church on Ponce and Highland. There you go. Pretty cool stuff there. All right. Move along here. With the threat of severe weather heading our way, here's something to keep in mind. We do have a first alert today, just so you know. There are some simple things you can do at home to prevent storm damage, and it starts with taking a look at your trees.
Any yard work that you can have done, if there are trees that are hazardous to your home, you could look at cutting them down. You could look at making sure that you're definitely trimming those branches. If you have a lot of debris that's sitting on top of your roof, going ahead and clearing that debris off, clearing your gutters is going to help in the long run.
Remember, when storms are rolling through, it's best to take shelter in an interior room in the lowest level of your home. Stay away from those windows and doors and glass. Interior room, good. Recommendations aimed at turning around South Carolina's growing teacher shortage are now in the hands of the State Board of Education. The head of the task force that's been researching and developing this report for the last several months presented the final product to the group yesterday. Our State House reporter Mary Green was at the State Board meeting and has the details.
Of the Teacher Recruitment and Retention Task Force's 23 total recommendations, some will require action from the General Assembly. But other recommendations will only need approval from the State Department of Education and State Board of Education to implement.
We all have to work together if this is going to help our children.
The recommendations are divided among 4 main categories: compensation and evaluation, recruitment, educator preparation, and working conditions. Nearly half the 23 recommendations fall under the South Carolina Department of Education's purview. They include a public relations campaign to enhance public respect for the profession, reevaluating state standards and assessments, and guaranteeing more teachers get a daily break or planning time. The task force is asking the State Department of Education to report annually on the progress South Carolina is making toward these goals for at least the next 3 years.
We will be coming to you and asking you, well, what's been done about this? What's been done about that? I don't think any of us protect every single word, you know what I'm saying, because things evolve and people have other ideas that are creative, but you're going to have a huge responsibility.
Some of these proposals already have the backing of Governor Henry McMaster, including raising the statewide starting salary for teachers up to $50,000 by 2026. Reporting in Columbia, I'm Mary Green.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Meanwhile, the General Assembly likely wouldn't be able to take up the recommendations that fall under its purview until the start of next year. So a little time on that. Convicted murderer Alec Murdochs' request to have a court reconsider his motion to pay his legal fees from his 401k account has been denied. His legal team says they spent well over the $600,000 they were able to get from his retirement account for his double murder trial, and now Murdoch reportedly needs an additional $160,000 for his appeal. Last month, a judge denied a motion for Murdoch to pull the money from nearly $500,000 still left in his account. He filed a motion to reconsider that ruling, which was denied again. A new mental health care facility in South Carolina is nearly full. Live Oak Mental Health and Wellness is the first freestanding mental health facility in the Lowcountry to open in more than 30 years. It was opened in response to a growing need in the region for mental health services. The National Alliance on Mental Illness says more than 37% of adults in South Carolina have recently reported symptoms of anxiety or depression. 23% were not able to get counseling or therapy.
You know that we're servicing a large demand that's needed, that's currently unmet in this community.
The facility opened June 6th with 35 beds, all of them filled within just 4 days of opening. The facility is working on expanding. Artificial intelligence already being used to monitor traffic congestion in Georgia and South Carolina. Wrecker Systems adapts to traffic cameras and other roadside systems already in place. Its goal is to combine that safety and infrastructure data. The program could track patterns in traffic congestion, and it could also potentially automate things like law enforcement of traffic in bus-only lanes.
We're in both Georgia and South Carolina, and really it's states like both of those that are leading the way in leveraging artificial intelligence to not only support law enforcement, but make the road safer and travel more efficient.
Wrecker has already installed systems in the Atlanta area. They're making their way through the rest of Georgia and have already begun on some cities in South Carolina as well. Celebrations turned into chaos following Monday's NBA Finals game in Denver after the Nuggets won their first NBA championship. After the game, 9 people were injured in a mass shooting in what police believe could be linked to a drug deal. And as Karen Morfitt reports, one of the suspects was also wounded.
The Denver Nuggets can finally call themselves NBA champions.
After the Denver Nuggets clinched their first NBA championship over the Miami Heat last night, thousands of fans poured into the streets to celebrate. But around 12:30 a.m., jubilation quickly turned into terror after a gunman opened fire following an altercation between several individuals. Denver police could be seen running toward the gunfire.
Multiple gunshot wounds, 2000 block of Market Street.
Officials say 9 people were shot. They were all taken to an area hospital, and they're expected to survive their injuries.
We're able to triage these patients, identify which were the most seriously injured, and get them rapidly to the operating room.
Police say at least 20 rounds were fired, 2 suspects were arrested, and at least 5 guns were recovered, as well as bags of fentanyl pills. Police believe the shooting may have been connected to a drug deal.
It certainly does appear to have been a drug nexus. There were quantities of cash. There was a large amount of drugs.
The Denver shooting is now the 291st mass shooting in the United States so far this year.
Denver police say more arrests could be coming. Thousands of fans expected to gather tomorrow for the championship parade. Players and officials say there will be heightened security there. The Biden administration has announced new disciplinary measures for any FBI employee who violates the agency's controversial surveillance program. The 3-strike FBI policy will have analysts disciplined or even fired if they misuse the intelligence program 3 times. The program is known as Section 702. It allows U.S. officials to search a database that gathers phone calls and text messages of foreign targets overseas, but the data also collects the communication of Americans with those foreign targets. Another military post is being renamed. Fort Polk is now the Joint Readiness Training Center in Fort Johnson. The post in Louisiana is the latest to be renamed. This is part of an ongoing effort to drop the names of Confederate leaders from Army posts. Here in Augusta, Fort Gordon becomes Fort Eisenhower this fall. Richard Rogers commented on that, or talked about that with their garrison commander, I believe it was, in the latest, or second to latest, one-on-one with Richard Rogers. Okay, a family in East Tennessee is grateful a scary situation didn't end up worse, but they still want to know what set it off in the first place. As Sam Luther reports, a driver tore through their yard, leaving a trail of damage behind.
On a stormy Sunday afternoon, Keisha Snow saw an unwanted visitor who drove through her front yard fence.
He pulled out my driveway. He backed up enough to pull back out my driveway.
A man that hasn't been identified seen in this video running over the Crossbill family swing set, eventually blowing a cloud of smoke as he surveyed the damage before driving away without saying anything to Snow.
We were just on that swing maybe 20 to 30 minutes prior.
A mother thankful her or her kids weren't outside on the swing set at the time. And while she wishes the driver stopped and spoke to her before driving away, she's just happy no one was hurt.
It could have took any of us. Any of us. I couldn't imagine being without my kids or them being without me.
Thankfully, that one didn't end up a lot worse. Still a scary situation nonetheless. Lawmakers in the House of Representatives are expected to pass 2 bills that Republicans say protect the consumer's ability to buy and install gas stoves. Last month, New York became the first state to ban gas stoves in new construction, and the issues ignited a political firestorm. Natalie Brand breaks it down.
This administration has a war on gas stoves.
Heating up on the House floor, a debate over gas stoves, ignited over GOP concerns that the federal government wants to restrict or even ban them.
It's an issue of consumer choice. It's an issue of affordability.
Washington State Republican Dan Newhouse points to bans at the local level, like the one recently enacted in New York, a victory for climate advocates and those worried about indoor air quality.
This is an incremental step in moving the country away from a source of energy that we desperately, vitally need.
Newhouse believes a new proposed efficiency standard by the Department of Energy could block the sale of many gas cooking appliances nationwide.
The Department of Energy argues the proposals are intended to boost energy efficiency for new products and would not go into effect until 2027. The agency emphasizes it's not trying to do away with gas stoves.
Well, I don't think we should ban gas stoves, but we're not talking about banning gas stoves. It's not real.
Florida Democrat Jared Moskowitz thinks the issue is a smokescreen. He graduated from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, the scene of a 2018 shooting massacre.
We've not had one hearing on school safety, not one hearing on school safety, multiple hearings on how some boogeyman is going to come to your house and take your gas stove.
While one gas stove bill targets the Energy Department, the other is aimed at the Consumer Product Safety Commission, which also insists it does not intend on banning gas stoves. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
The bills are not expected to move forward in the Democratic-controlled Senate. The Biden administration says it does not support any attempt to ban the use of gas stoves. Father's Day is coming up soon, and if you're looking for a gift that's sure to not only please Dad but also the rest of the family, here's a really good idea: a portable refrigerator. Not just a refrigerator, but also a freezer and an ice maker you can take on the road. But how does that work? Our consumer tech reporter Jamie Tucker tried out the new portable appliance to see if it's worth the money.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. A portable refrigerator, freezer, and an ice maker. I've never seen anything like it. The EcoFlow Glacier boasts some bold claims, so we're going to check them out. On one side is a fridge for drinks and food. On the other side, a freezer for ice cream and other frozen foods. Each side is controlled by a digital thermostat you can set on the device or with an app. On this side is an ice maker. EcoFlow claims can make 18 ice cubes in about 12 minutes, even in the sun. But if you're going to be away from electrical outlets, there is an optional battery that'll keep the fridge and freezer running for up to 40 hours. It can also run off a car's cigarette lighter, and for camping or getting off the grid completely, it'll plug into a solar panel to keep operating. Those are the claims. Let's see how well it works. I filled up the fridge side with soda cans and bottles at 23 degrees and placed ice cream in the freezer set to -4 degrees. Then I took it outside. I left it in the sun for 6 hours. And to make ice, I poured water into a tray, and in about 12 minutes, I lifted the ice mold to find 18 ice cubes. A check on temperatures found the cans at 23 degrees, the ice cream frozen to -4. All of that while running on the battery. Once the battery got down to about 6%, I plugged the Glacier into the EcoFlow solar charger. After 2 hours, it was charged to 76%. Like its portable generators, the EcoFlow Glacier works just as advertised, and I can see this being handy not just for camping, but for trips to the beach and tailgate parties. You could also keep it in storage for an emergency backup refrigerator if the power goes out. That's What the Tech. I'm Jamie Tucker.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. All the convenience, though, is a little bit expensive. The Glacier refrigerator and freezer is $1,000, and that portable charger is $300 extra. So definitely on the pricier side of things, but it did seem pretty cool if you're a regular beach goer. That's kind of a good thing, but yeah, I'd rather just use my cooler. It's all good. Throw a little ice in there, it'll be just fine. Wellness travel is exploding after the pandemic. The Global Wellness Institute says the U.S. is by far the world's top wellness economy, valued at $1.2 trillion. Wendy Gillette reports on what travelers are looking for.
The Savannah Wellness Resort and Spa lured Denver resident Victoria Hartman to the Arizona desert a couple weeks ago.
My goal was to try new classes and new experiences that I hadn't before. And so I signed up for a lot of activities that I wouldn't normally have done.
The resort in Scottsdale offers spa therapies like craniosacral massages and dozens of classes a day, including sound healing for joy, intention candle making.
So it really becomes a very intuitive practice.
And the journaling for transformation class Hartman sampled.
I've come home and I've decided to try my hand at journaling. I've never done it before.
Increasingly, stays at the resort are focused on a similar experience.
We're seeing more guests participating in our workshop classes where they can learn about tools they can take home to bring happiness and wellness into their lives at home.
In a 2023 survey by American Express Travel, over 70% of respondents say they're more focused on self-care than they were a year ago. And almost 60% are planning to take extended trips centered around wellness. It's why around 20% of guests at Victoria Jungfrau Grand Hotel and Spa in Interlaken, Switzerland, are scheduling 4 to 7 night stays.
It's to find the inner calm, to think differently.
We stayed at these hotels for special rates, including Anantara Layan in Phuket, Thailand, where travelers are seeking calm through the resort's 3-day sleep restoration program.
Since COVID, I think people are coming to an awareness of the importance of sleep and other lifestyle factors and how they impact on the immune system.
It's part of prioritizing health when it comes to booking travel. Wendy Gillette, CBS News.
All righty, sad news for the Wheel of Fortune folks out there. Pat Sajak is retiring. He had hosted Wheel of Fortune for 40 seasons and says after number 41, he's calling it quits. Tweeted the other night that it's been a wonderful ride. The 76-year-old has hosted Wheel with Vanna White since 1982, and that 41st season is going to start in September. To sports now, the Vaughn Taylor Championship second round is teeing off here today. Some local players out there on the course. Dan Booth has the highlights from round one.
Good morning, everyone. The first round of the 13th annual Vaughn Taylor Championship is in the books. And after a change in locations heading into this year's event, junior golfers from all over North America put on a show over at the Bartram Trail Golf Club in Evans. Throughout the years, this event has been played at multiple different locations around the Augusta area. Switching over to Bartram Trail gives this event a little bit of a different feel and has the potential to lower scores for the kids competing. News 12's Alyssa Lyons caught up with Vaughn Taylor to discuss how the course change could impact the leaderboard this year and for years to come.
Jones Creek and Mount Vintage, the kids struggled with scores. I think, like single digits would win every year. So, coming here, I thought it would be lower for sure. The course is shorter, a little more wide open. Past places have been tight and narrow and hilly, and just a challenge, all the way around for the kids.
We have 4 local players competing this year. After a nice tee shot over the pond onto the 8th green, Augusta native and 12-year-old Tyler Newsom just barely misses this birdie putt. He went on to sink the next putt to save for par. Newsom shot 3 over on the day. Let's get over to the 9th green, where Nathan Martin from Evans is looking to close out his day with a birdie, but his putt just doesn't have enough on it. Martin went on to save for par as well, ending the round at 2 over. His sister Sarah Martin is competing in this event as well. Now, here's 14-year-old Nicholas Flight on the 9th fairway. His approach shot is money. You can't ask for much more in this situation. Flight went on to birdie that hole, bringing his day to an end on a high note at 2 over. Here's what these kids, who are definitely better at golf than I am, had to say about how they played and what they think of the course conditions.
This course has changed tremendously over the last few weeks, and this course is playing tougher than I've ever seen it.
I struggled with putting a little bit. The greens were firm and fast today, but overall I think the course was in really good shape.
I think it's in really good condition. Like, for the past couple of months, whenever I've been out here, it hasn't really been at its peak, but I think it's definitely at its peak right now.
Round 2 is set to tee off bright and early at 8 a.m. And like round 1, there will be split tees. That's it for sports. Have a great day, everybody.
All right, thanks, Dan. Tyler Newsom, actually the youngest one in the boys' field at just 12 years old. And they're all sitting in the top 30 right now. Let me check on Sarah Martin real quick here. She is tied for 24th on the girls' side. So everybody doing pretty well. All right, let's wrap it up here with this week's one-tank trip. We're heading to the beach. There's a hidden gem in the low country near Edisto Island called Botany Bay. Will Volk takes us there.
It's not your typical drive to the beach. No traffic. Instead, a tunnel of trees.
And this is the South Carolina State Shell.
When you park, a volunteer like Jim Wenthy will greet you.
People come here because it's not built up. It's still like it was and hasn't changed much.
Every year, tens of thousands of people walk down this half-mile trail, and this is what they come for.
There's these dead trees, and it's a very beautiful beach.
Erosion is moving the shore further inland, and it's taking these trees with it. Now at high tide, there is no beach, but at low tide, you get this.
This is a great little location, nice and secluded, quiet, which is what we like.
Jordan Neely brought his family here for the first time.
That's beautiful. It's got the Boneyard Beach here with all the trees and beautiful shells, and not near as busy as a normal beach.
The beach is covered with shells. You can't take them, so instead, many people hang them on trees. Botany Bay may not be your typical beach, but for those who come here, that's okay.
You're not going to find the bathrooms you need for kids and things like that, but it's worth it.
At the beach, Will Volk on your side.
Pretty cool stuff there. Not something you see every day. It's about 3 hours here from Augusta, and it is free to go to. Okay, we're going to take a couple-minute break here. When we come back, we're going to bring you out to Strom-Thurmond Lake, where we're doing the spillway testing. They're going to raise all 23 gates by 2 feet, and that'll run for a couple hours. So we're going to do it on the YouTube side. If you're on the app, make sure you check us out over there. Or if you want to stay and watch Morning Mix, another great option, you can do that too. So we're going to stop this stream, and I'll start up another one in just a couple minutes. So just stand by.